okay, everybody knows at this point that it's a pretty weird situation we're in regarding the Phantom Menace because, it was very easy to mock it after it was originally released, like the prequel trilogy, because, they seemed so terrible and just unwatchable, and so many, like, plot points that are just weird and characters that are hard to relate to and boring, and there's lots of like long dialogue scenes that are just forgettable and not very interesting, and then like it's pretty hard to make much sense of any of the plot. This movie, Phantom Menace, in my opinion, it makes no sense at all. And I can't wrap my head around it. It's been decades and I've thought about it a lot, and I can't wrap my head around what's going on at all in the movies. But at least like now that the sequels are out, I think we can all admit that the sequels don't, like, clearly wouldn't planned out at all in any way, and nobody cared about the plot. Nobody at Lucasfilm, after George Lucas left, cared about the plot or the consistency or characters or the universe or any of that stuff. So basically, like, it was all much better when George Lucas was still around, and at least this movie is trying to say things and do things and be interesting and stuff, and like, even though it doesn't work, like, so it's like this movie is bad, but and I don't like criticizing movies much, or like, I don't see the point in deconstructing movies. I mean, I like to deconstruct movies actually in my head a lot, and it's kind of silly because it's kind of autistic and pointless, and um, I think making videos where you sort of deconstruct movies is like, I know that like Red Letter Media did it, so people are like, oh, we'll copy Red Letter Media and we'll make a video channel which like dissects movies, and then they and I was watching some Game of Thrones one where they were like trying to pull apart the later seasons of Game of Thrones, and they were saying anytime there was any sort of inconsistency between characters that it was just like bad writing, whereas like in most cases you can just put it down to the characters. Like, real life people are not super consistent, and they don't tell, like, one day to the next they don't tell you exactly the same things that they might have told you before about the thing, like in the workplace or in like family settings or whatever. It's all massively inconsistent, and so yeah, so I think it's like deconstructionism, like pulling things apart and nitpicking and saying, oh, this is a plot hole because this character said a different thing at this point. And it's like, in real life people do that, so what's their point? I don't know. But like, I feel that with the Plinkett reviews, I think he was mostly focusing on things that don't work, and like things that actually make the movie hurt to watch. Can and I agree with most of the points. Like, I'd say something like Qui-Gon Jinn is way too boring of a character. Obi-Wan is way too boring of a character. Padme is way too boring of a character, and so on. And you like, it's very hard to like, it's hard to like this movie for any reason because the characters all seem boring, and the things they talk about are boring and don't make sense most of the time, and it's just aggravating to watch. There are some good things though I like about this movie. Like, there's a scene where it's when Qui-Gon first meets Jar Jar Binks, and Jar Jar Binks says or does something really stupid, and like Qui-Gon Jinn says something like, Jar Jar, are you retarded? And Jar Jar just sort of looks at Qui-Gon and says, oh, but I spake. And Qui-Gon says, well, just because you can speak, that doesn't mean you're not retarded. And that is the best scene in Star Wars history, in my opinion. It's a good joke, it's a good character moment, and yeah, and like Obi-Wan in this movie is boring, but Qui-Gon Jinn I don't think is actually that boring. He's clearly very he has very different attitude towards being a Jedi and the Force compared to, say, Yoda and Mace Windu, who are very boring, and they're kind of ineffectual. Like, Yoda and Mace Windu are both very ineffectual in this movie and in the next movie and in the next movie in the same way. They all can't spot that Palpatine is Darth Sidious, even though it's completely obvious, and they should really be able to tell. Even without their Jedi powers, they should really be able to tell, and they can't, so they're dumb. And yeah, so it's like aggravating to watch, and like the later films are aggravating to watch because you know throughout all these movies that Anakin is Darth Vader, and you know that Palpatine is Darth Sidious. And yeah, so but anyway, so this copy of the movie that we're watching is actually a video CD copy from Malaysia. It was made by Video Van in and it was released in around April or something like that, the year 2000. Sorry, so it was released around the same time as the VHS version was released in the West, and this version was basically the equivalent because they didn't really watch it. Like VHS wasn't super popular in many Eastern countries, so they watch these video CD versions. Video CDs are much cheaper to make, and some of the video CDs from Eastern releases are really wonky, and because the MPEG-1 encoding that's used isn't really capable of handling subtitles that well, a lot of the movies from the East, like Western movies, have subtitles, and this one does not. But a lot of them do from Eastern countries, and there's a lot of Malaysian releases have subtitles, sometimes Chinese or Malay or whatever, and yeah, the encoding really can't handle that much stuff on screen. Like it's very hard to MPEG-1 with this because like this copy of the movie is quite low resolution. It's 1.2 gigabytes in total, which is too much to fit on one disc, so it needs two discs, which means you need to switch the disc when you're watching. But this version, I've joined them, so we don't have to worry about that. But we can basically just like I'll flick through it. We'll get started really soon. It's not going to take very long anyway, and I'm basically just want to say that when Star Trek was big in the 80s and 90s, and everybody was watching the original series, and they were watching from the 60s, they were watching the movies, which were coming out in the 80s, and Star Trek The Next Generation, which came out in the late 80s, and the Star Trek movies, which came out in the early 90s, and everybody seemed to be, in at least in nerd communities, were really obsessing over Star Trek, and all the computer nerds were all obsessing over Star Trek and stuff. And people kind of seemed to almost forget that Star Wars existed. And then they did they did an original release of the theatrical cuts, although not quite the theatrical cuts, but close to the theatrical cuts of the Star Wars. On VHS and on Laserdisc and other formats, and then they did the special editions, which had some cleanup of the visuals and some fixed color grading and stuff, which improved things a bit. And they also had some changes to the audio, which kind of made things worse. And they had Greedo shooting first, which ruins that whole scene. And then they had CGI added to pretty much every scene, which was terrible. And yeah, so the CGI in this version is really wonky because I'm assuming they cleaned up the CGI in the later releases of Phantom Menace, because this version is basically the theatrical cut because it's a very early release of the home movie release. But it's going to be very hard to tell with low resolution and the low encoding quality and so on. So but basically I was getting really into Star Wars at the end of the 90s and stuff leading up to this movie's release. So I was so excited. This is going to be more than any other movie. I was this is going to be the best movie ever. Phantom Menace, when it comes out, it's got a stupid name, but it's going to be the best thing. I was so excited. I was seven. Oh, I can't remember how old I was. I was 16 or something like that. Maybe I was 17, whatever. But I was so excited, and when I saw it, my heart sank, and my whole body was standing on end when I first started watching it. And then very quickly into the movie, I was this is boring and makes no sense, and am I just dumb? Because the movie makes no sense. And then I left feeling like the movie was a complete waste of time and no fun at all and just bad. And then I talked to other people, and I sort of some people I knew were trying to convince me that the movie was okay, but I think most people were the more they thought about it and the more they talked about it, they were yeah, I don't really like it either, actually. And then when it came out on home media and stuff, people watched it again, and they were yeah, it's kind of bad. Oh well, maybe the next one will be better. And then it wasn't. The next one was worse. So there are some good things about this movie, though. This is the only movie in the prequels that's shot on film and not digital camera. Star Wars Episode 2 switched to digital cameras. This movie has way more practical effects in it. It still doesn't have many practical effects in it, but it's got way more real sets in it. Episode 2 and 3 have way too much CGI in them that look really bad and dated by even the standards of then, and like by today's standards, it's like unwatchable. I'm sure they must have redone a lot of the CGI in newer releases, I would hope, because it looked pretty bad when back in the day when this was new, and when episode 2 was new, and episode 3 was new. They all just look terrible, and like, yeah. So that's my rant over with. I've been going about 10 minutes, and now I'm gonna explain why this movie sucks so much. Let's just get started. So I'm just gonna have this timer up here. Wait. Okay, turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic. The taxation of trade routes to outlying systems is in dispute. Now, this is a Star Wars movie, right? You know, this is a fun adventure film for children. Like, it's not like we're not watching C-SPAN, or are we? And like, okay, it's already confusing as hell because like, I understand that the Galactic Republic is either deploying taxation of trade routes. It's of trade routes as well, not so it's not like a tariff. It's more like if you use our particular trade routes, then you'll get taxed. But does it mean that this is why we have to wait for the next bit? Okay, hoping to resolve the matter with the blockade of what's it say? Oh, a blockade of deadly battleships. The greedy Trade Federation has stopped all shipping to the small planet of Naboo. Okay, so who cares about Naboo? I don't. And basically, what they're saying is there's a thing called the Trade Federation. We don't know whether it's relates to a specific block of planets or whether it's like maybe it's like the British East India Trading Company and maybe it's part of like another race. Maybe the Trade Federation is run by another race, so maybe it's not actually part of like maybe there's a race that's indigenous to a planet that and people from that planet have created an organization called the Trade Federation, and then the Trade Federation have either put taxes on an area which affect other races because they want to do trade, and that's creating animosity within the Republic, or the Republic itself has imposed trade through legislation with trade tax, which through legislation which is affecting the Trade Federation because they don't want to pay the taxes. And in any case, what they're doing is they're blockading Naboo just as a bargaining chip. It's not actually directly involved because presumably Naboo is not in and like one of the outlying systems anyway, like I'm assuming. So anyway, so while the Congress of the Republic endlessly debates this alarming chain of events, the Supreme Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights, the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy, to settle the conflict. So this makes no sense to me, any of this, because I'm like, okay, so I've already explained that there's two possible situations here. They could have said in the title call what they meant, but they didn't. So we don't know what they meant at this point. So there's a lot of options here for what the Trade Federation is and what the actual taxation is. Like who has put the taxation in place, who is collecting the money, and that's whatever. Yeah, the reason all we know is that the Trade Federation is not happy. For some reason, maybe that, and they're trying to use the planet of Naboo as a bargaining chip by putting a blockade in place. So, yeah, so either the Trade Federation are really cool and based by controlling their own territory and putting taxation on it, and the Republic is getting pissed with them, so they're trying to upset the order by blockading Naboo, or the Republic is being dicks by putting trade taxation in place, which is affecting the Trade Federation, which is presumably one of the biggest groups which which trades goods within the galaxy, right? So basically, like the Federation. Basically, what I'm saying is this makes it sound like the Republic are the bad guys, and it makes it sound like the Trade Federation are the good guys. But the Jedi Knights, for some reason, are working for the Republic, which is already bizarre. And this is just the start of. This is just the start, kids. It gets way worse from here.
Of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal.
Okay, so he just said the blockade is legal, which it might be. I mean, I don't actually know. So, like, I guess what he means is that there's no actual legislation saying that he can't have his ships here blockading, right?
And we'd be happy to receive the ambassadors.
Like, he's probably right. What I'm saying is he's probably correct. I don't actually believe that his blockade is illegal.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Okay, so he says he has a bad feeling about this. The reason he says that is because everybody says that in Star Wars, and it's like a cliche. So, yeah.
I don't sense anything.
It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere.
Okay.
Mindful of the living force, young Padawan. Negotiations will be short.
Yeah, so I actually kind of like this bit. This bit's a good bit for Liam Neeson's character, just to start, but just because he's explaining to Obi-Wan that Obi-Wan's not really very, like, he doesn't think with the Force, you know? Because the Force is this big thing which everything controls everything and it is in everything, and he basically just told Obi-Wan, you know, you need to be one with the Force, not like, you know, just like use Force powers occasionally or whatever, you know. He's basically just called him like a not very good Force user. But he is like a newbie, so, you know.
What? What did you say?
The
Okay, so they sent Jedi Knights.
ambassadors are Jedi Knights, I believe.
There's some inconsistency here, because I'm sure that there's some other form of media which says that maybe it's one of the later movies, but I don't believe that Obi-Wan Kenobi is actually a Jedi Knight officially in this movie yet. Like maybe he is in the next one or in the next one after that. So it's a mistake.
They're here to force a settlement.
Distract them. I will contact Lord Sidious.
Are you?
Yeah, so they're saying that they're going to talk to Sidious, right? Darth Sidious, because he's a Sith. But they called him Lord Sidious in order to make it, like, just so the audience doesn't know that he's a Sith, in case savvy people in the audience. The trouble is, savvy people in the audience already know that Sidious is a Darth at this point. Anyway, if you have any interest in Star Wars at all, you know Sidious is a Sith, right? So, and you know Palpatine, and you also know at this point, if you have any knowledge of Star Wars whatsoever, that Palpatine, Senator Palpatine, and Darth Sidious are the same people, they're even played by the same actor, and they even look the same, and yeah, and they sound the same. And the movie tries to pretend that you just don't know this, and episodes 2 and 3 also try to pretend that you just don't know this until it's revealed, and that's embarrassing, I think, because it's obviously not the case that people didn't know. It's like trying to surprise people with something that they already knew. It's like, what? It's just bad.
Brain dead? I'm not going in there with two Jedi.
No.
Fear for something as true.
What is it?
Okay.
This scheme of yours has failed, Lord Sidious. The blockade is finished. We dare not go against the Jedi.
Yeah, well, they're just saying that they're being strong-armed. They're not complaining that it's immoral or anything. They're just complaining that they're being strong-armed. And, you know, if the Republic is going to use Jedi Knights, in quotes, to strong-arm them, then they're screwed, right?
Viceroy, I don't want this stunted slime in my sight again. This turn of events is unfortunate.
The Jedi?
Okay, so do I have anything else to say in the next bit? I don't know. I got copyright claimed on my Star Trek review, Star Trek 5, where I glazed all over the, like, nobody has glazed all over that movie more than I have in my life. And in that video, I was like, oh, Star Trek 5 is like the best movie ever, right? And, but I got copyright claim on it. And it's basically just because I didn't, like, I flicked through it, but I didn't pause it enough, right? So the fact that I was flicking through it for like minutes on end, even though I was skipping tons of it, that they still went, oh, that means that you watched it for too much of a video in a go. So that means that it's a copyright problem. Anyway, so I can't do that with this movie. I have to be really careful. Anyway. Okay, so like they already know. Like I don't have any more problem with this, right? On behalf of the Trade Federation, right? Because they're being attacked by, well, the Jedi Knights have basically been sent to strong arm them, so they're destroying their ship. Would you do the same thing? Of course you would. So I don't think these are like they haven't done anything bad yet. Anyway.
Sorry.
Thing is, like, they're trying to kill. Okay, look, they're trying to. Okay, I'm not trying to defend the Trade Federation. That's the point of this video, is not to defend the Trade Federation, right? I don't like the Trade Federation. They're all annoying, and they're sort of racist looking accents and things. Like, they definitely wanted them to be like racist caricatures, like Jar Jar Binks is racist caricature as well. And it's like it's like even at the time it was like highly questionable. Even though a lot of comedy shows around this time were still doing blackface and stuff quite a lot. But, you know, for some reason it's okay for Star Wars to have characters that are basically just racist stereotypes. Like, there's a lot of racist stereotypes in this movie. And it's sort of made just when it was still not too bad to... Because, like, the racial mix of like Western countries when this movie came out was much less mixed than it is now, right? So it seemed fine at the time. They never do this now. Disney would never do this now, right? Anyway. So yeah. So the Trade Federation correctly try and murder the Jedis because, you know, the Jedis are trying to strong arm them. So they think the Jedis are trying to physically bully them, so they're trying to kill them before that can happen, which is correct. Like, that's like what you would do in their position. It's not like you can say it's bad because murder is bad, like it's inherently bad, but, you know, it's hard to argue that given the trade dispute that's going on, and that I doubt these guys were actually sent here in good faith, or with the assumption that they would behave, like, properly. I think they were just sent to strong arm them, basically, like, give them an offer they can't refuse, physically threaten them, and so on, so they're basically just thinking, we'll just kill them. So yeah, nothing against that.
They must be dead by now.
Okay, so...
Check it out.
We lost the transmission.
That won't be. That will coming to destroy it.
Okay, so they all go to Naboo. So I'm gonna skip through this bit.
So pleased when you hear what I have to say, Viceroy. Your trade boycott of our planet has ended.
What? Trade boycott? Are they talking about the blockade? They called it a trade boycott. I mean, Padme said it was a trade... Let's go back.
You come before us, Your Highness.
It's Queen Amidala herself.
At last, we are getting results. Again.
I'm just going to pause it briefly so we can look at the Queen. When I saw the trailer and stuff for Star Wars Episode 1, which I had an MPEG-1 downloaded version of back in the 90s, and that's one of the things that made me very excited about it, and I was like, this costume is really amazing, and that's what I thought when I saw it. So I was like, okay, that means the movie must be good, right? Because they bothered to do a good costume for this person, who is either Natalie Portman or, you know, Keira Knightley. Because Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman both play the Queen, so, you know, this is definitely Natalie Portman, I can tell, but, you know, but nobody else can. In the movie, nobody can tell which is which, because they look close enough, apparently. But, you know, the audience can tell, you know, unless they're stupid. But actually, I think... Actually, I thought it was... Because the first time I watched the movie, I didn't realize that she had a body... Like, she had a double for protection purposes, because Saddam Hussein had apparently like 10 people who looked just like him, who would just walk around and be like fake Saddam Husseins, which made it harder for assassinations and so on. So in this case, we have like she basically does the same thing, right? And I was like, has the actress changed? I was like, she doesn't look the same. And yeah.
And you come before us, Your Highness.
You will not be so pleased when you hear what I have to say, Viceroy. Your trade boycott of our planet has ended.
What? It's a blockade. It's not a boycott. I mean, you boycott, like, you boycott something that you don't like because you want to change a thing. So you go like, oh, I'm going to boycott Star Wars because they make such bad products or something like that. Or you just don't like something about, like, maybe you think that Star Wars is unethical in some way, so you boycott it in order to try and inflict change on it. And like, I would say, like, blockading trade is not really a boycott. It's only a boycott if the Trade Federation decides that they don't want other... Actually, maybe this does make sense, because maybe the Trade Federation are the only people who do, like, trade Naboo goods with other worlds. I understand this bit finally. Okay, so if Naboo used the Trade Federation for trading goods with other worlds and so on, then this does actually... It may actually be the case that nobody else ever trades, like, or buys things directly from Naboo. Maybe the Trade Federation does and then resells it, or maybe they control the trade routes or whatever. But the only way it could be a boycott that the Trade Federation is doing is if they're the people who buy everything from Naboo and then resell it onwards, which maybe they do. Maybe that is what happens in the universe. Yeah. I'm already very confused, though, because I don't... So, what's this with the taxation thing? Okay, maybe it's the... Okay, wait a minute. If that's the case, maybe it is the case that the Republic must be the one that has imposed taxation that would affect this situation, because then it makes more sense to directly choose Naboo to boycott, right? Blockade. So, but they're blockading themselves because they're the ones who do trade then. So, like, I would only call it a blockade if you're preventing other people doing trade, but I would call it a boycott if you're the ones choosing to not trade yourself. So, you can't do both at the same time. But I think what the movie is saying is that Natalie Portman's planet basically sells all its goods to the Trade Federation, and the Republic, in their infinite wisdom, has imposed a huge amount of tax on them, which means that it's not worth it for them to do anymore, which means that the Trade Federation is pissed because they can't make do, because they make all their money by trading stuff, and particularly from Naboo, as an example. And so the reason that they're blockading Naboo is to prevent other people from doing trade with Naboo in their place as well. And so they're doing so in that case, therefore, they are doing a boycott and they're doing a blockade simultaneously, and they also can't be the ones who are imposing tax anywhere, even though the opening crawl and the rest of the movie makes it really unclear who is actually imposing the tax. And actually, they haven't said up to this point who is imposing the tax. They've just said that there is one. And I think I actually finally understand the movie now. Like, it took me decades, right, to understand this movie. Because as soon as I heard about, like, this is the only way it can make sense, based on what everybody has said. I mean, I'm assuming, like, based on what I said earlier about Game of Thrones, when I was like, people say things that are wrong or inconsistent or whatever. And, like, so you could say, oh, maybe the Queen misspoke, and maybe it's not actually meant to be a boycott. Maybe it is just a blockade, and, like, maybe she used the wrong word because she's dumb. Who knows? So, at this point, I think I do understand what's going on, finally. So, basically, the Trade Federation have done nothing wrong. The Republic imposed a massive amount of tax, meaning that... But Naboo should be complaining more. Like, realistically, if this happened in reality, Naboo would be complaining just as much as the Trade Federation about the taxation levels, because they'd be like, well, the taxation means that we won't make any money through trade. Because the fact that the Trade Federation has decided to blockade and boycott Naboo at the same time, and they probably at least decided to stop trade with other planets just because it's not worth it for them anymore. But all this means that the taxation level must be astronomical and must be unreasonable. And Naboo would complain as much as the Trade Federation would, because there's no way in heck that it is tolerable. Like, if it's like 30% or something, that's my guess. It must be about 30%. That's my guess. Solved. I've solved the movie. Finally. After like 3 decades of watching this movie, well, not 3. Wait, it is nearly 3 decades, because this came out in 1999. This is so irritating. Anyway, so I'm going to scrub through the rest of the movie briefly. I've solved the movie for everybody, and now anybody can understand it, right? I've explained it. I've explained what this stupid shit is. Like, it is the Republic that's put the tax in place, and Naboo complaining makes no sense. The fact that Naboo haven't complained once, and don't in the movie about the tax, is stupid, because they would definitely lose out on not being able to trade through having a massive amount of taxation imposed on them. And likewise, the Trade Federation are the only ones, like, standing up for, you know, merchants and, you know, honorable business people who are trying to make a living, just trying to get by, earn a crust. Like, they're actually standing up for those people, yeah, like fighting against the ineffectual and useless Republic, which is, like, has Jedi toadies and, like, gooners who are, like, completely useless and can't even tell when a Sith Lord is standing right in front of them, even though it happens a bunch, and they're just, like, they just can't tell that it's happening, because they're stupid as hell and useless. And, yeah, so this level of complexity should not be in a movie like this. Like, I still don't know what setup the Trade Federation has. They must just be a company that is made up of a bunch of smaller companies. So they would band together for extra strength and call themselves the Trade Federation. For some reason, they have a seat. They have seats, like, in the legislature, like in the Senate and stuff, which makes very little sense, because, like, historically, I don't think that's happened ever. But I think, like, George Lucas is trying to be like, oh, if we had, like, a world republic, whatever, and, like, Microsoft and Apple and stuff, they'd probably all have seats. Ah ha ha, ah ha. And stuff. So that's kind of the joke, right? It's like, ha ha ha. Or Disney, ah ha, slavers, Disney, ah ha. They would definitely have, like, you know, all of this, like, political power, like, directly, not just through lobbyists and stuff, but actually having seats in whatever political body there is, even though that doesn't really happen at the moment. But, like, and he's saying that, like, oh, the British East India Company would have seats and stuff, like, just because of their trading business, and, like, they need influence in the political sphere, because otherwise this shit happens where there's taxation on trade routes, which is not tolerable. So hopefully having a system of representation where a honorable group of businessmen like the Trade Federation, who are willing to stand up for themselves when they're being, where oppressive government is encroaching on them in this manner, means that, you know, they're standing up for the good guys. They are the good guys in this movie. It's been solved. I can't see the Jedis or the Republic as good guys at this point, because the Republic is just unreasonable and just, like, aggressively ineffectual and mean at the same time, and not really, like, but yeah. So I think the Naboo definitely in real life, if this happened in real life and Star Wars was real, Naboo would definitely kick up as much of a stink as the Trade Federation is, and this blockade would not really be necessary, and the boycott would still happen, because, you know, the Trade Federation would be like, oh, we can't actually do trade with you anymore, Naboo, whatever, because it's just not worth it for us because of the taxation levels. And then Naboo would go to the Republic and they'd complain and kick up a massive stink over it, and basically they'd be entirely on the Trade Federation's side, and they'd back them up to the hilt. Queen Amidala would be like, you guys are completely correct. And the fact that the Jedis are trying to charm you like this, and they're trying to threaten you like this and stuff, it's just unreasonable, right? Like, it's good that you murdered them, because they deserved it, right? Because you're just trying to protect everybody's livelihoods. Like, a couple of lost Jedis is fine, as long as, like, people's livelihoods aren't at stake in the long run when we get this shit sorted out. And if they know that if the Republic knows that the Jedi can't bully you, then they might actually listen to you. Which means that, again, the Trade Federation is on the right side. I can't... This freaking movie, man. This freaking movie. Hate it.
I was not aware of such failure.
I've read story.
On there.
Assurances from the Chancellor. His ambassadors did it right.
Communications disruption can mean only one thing: invasion.
Okay, so That doesn't make any sense, because this is why I was complaining about this movie not making any sense, because he said communications disruption must mean invasion. It doesn't make any sense to assume that. There's no reason for them to assume that. But yeah, basically they're just trying to make things unreasonable so they get their way. And like, I don't agree with the invasion, you know, but you know, they're desperate, right? If you were that desperate, then you might go, oh, well, it for one planet, if we try and bully them just to get what we want. The fact that the Naboo did not back up the Trade Federation is a load of bullshit anyway. Like, the second that they got her on the display, she would have said, oh, how's it going? Like, have you sorted out the taxation issues with the Republic yet? And yeah, that's all they would have talked about. Like, it wouldn't have been antagonistic between them, right? And like, people need their Naboo-made dakimakuras of Natalie Portman sent to their houses in like wherever they are, right? So you have to have a trade federation, because who else is going to send it, right? Anyway,
Federation would not dare go that far.
The Senate would revoke their trade franchise, and they'd be finished.
Okay. The what?
Thing. Invasion.
Federation would not dare go that far.
The Senate would revoke their trade franchise, and they'd be finished.
We must continue to...
Okay. I thought I misheard what he said. That's why I was panicking, because I thought suddenly that I didn't understand it. This is the problem with all this like nonsense talk in a kids movie, because I'm having difficulty wrapping my head around all this nonsense, and I've watched this movie a bunch, and I watched this movie when I was younger and much smarter than I am now, and I could not wrap my head around any of this nonsense. And I watched a lot of political shit, and I like complicated political like thriller stuff where there's lots of like, oh, this legislation about this thing, whatever. But like, this movie doesn't make sense to me. I'm just sort of understanding the movie a bit, but I keep mishearing what everybody is saying, which you know, that's my fault, and maybe it's the video CD's fault. But I could have sworn that he said something else, but he didn't. So let's just ignore it.
Rely on negotiation.
Negotiation? We've lost all communications. And where are the chancellors?
The action that will lead us to war.
Use caution. These Jedi are not to be underestimated.
Okay. Okay, if you say so.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
Okay, this scene is my favorite scene in Star Wars, and here it is in glorious MPEG-1 video CD from the year 2000, presented to you in glorious 4:3 aspect ratio, which is like square but not square, because if you have a 1:1 aspect ratio, because humans are dumb, it doesn't look like a square anymore, it looks too narrow. So if you do 4:3, it looks like a square, because humans are dumb. And yeah, so let's watch the whole thing.
I love you.
You almost got us killed. Are you brainless?
I spec.
He calls him brainless. Sorry, my memory must not be very good anymore.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get
Okay.
out of here.
No, Mr. Stay.
No. See, he's like, I don't even want to do an impression of Jar Jar Binks. I feel bad doing an impression of Jar Jar Binks. I could easily do an impression of Jar Jar Binks, but it just feels wrong. It just feels bad. But also, I'm not going to go through the rest of the movie, right? Because I think I made my point, right? Like, this bit with the taxation of trade routes, it's really poorly explained, and like, we're going to skip through all this. Don't care about any of this. Don't care about any of this. Don't care about
I
any of
saved
this.
his life. He owes me.
No.
Except that.
The day's starting.
Okay.
Okay.
Like.
I literally don't care about any of this. I'm pausing this just in case it gets me into copyright trouble again.
How rude.
How rude. Oh god, I
I
copied
don't
this
want
voice.
you to raise. It's awful. I die every time Water makes you do it.
Friendly to the
Yes, how can you do this? Not under
See? See? See what I'm talking about?
the cost of the party.
Yeah, see? See what I mean? That's Natalie Portman. See, she's pretending. See? She's pretending to be somebody she's not, right?
Palpatine. Just to hear your
Finally.
report on the situation. We
Was. The Senate is full of greedy, squabbling delegates.
There is no interest in the common good.
What about people's ability to earn money and stuff? And also, I don't understand why she's not backing up the Trade Federation here. Like, she's picked the wrong side, man. Obviously, she's got bad advisors. She's definitely got bad advisors.
I must be frank, Your Majesty, there is...
Also, this guy is... Wait, whoa. Greg, pause. This guy looks just like Darth Sidious, right? And not only that, but he sounds like Darth Sidious, and he looks like the Emperor, and he sounds like the Emperor. It's all very suspicious. I wonder, you know, if you watch this movie, like, obviously, at this point, watching this movie when it came out, I hadn't, like, I was watching the trailer a lot and stuff, but I didn't, like, read tons about it, and I hadn't read any of the Extended Universe stuff, or nothing like that. So, like, I just went from, like, original movies, like A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, this, like, watching the trailer for Phantom Menace a lot before watching this, but, like, oh, and the, like, holiday special as well. Can't forget the holiday special. But the point is, like, I knew at this point, I was like, that's the Emperor. So, yeah. You're clearly not supposed to know, though. I don't know why George Lucas assumes that. Like, the audience all know. So, in the next movie, it's the same. Like, he does stuff, and you know the whole time that he's the Emperor. But the movie assumes you don't. And it's like, what? I don't get it.
Little chance the Senate will act on the invasion.
Good.
Now, but you could call for a vote of no confidence. Control for.
The thing is, okay, the Emperor's plan is clearly something like this. Well, basically he's not the Emperor at this point. Palpatine's plan is definitely something like this. What he must have done is he must have managed to get the taxation in place by the Republic, and then he went to the after the taxation was unreasonable, he went to the Trade Federation and said, oh, you can't sell goods from Naboo anymore because we've got a much higher level of taxation. So what you could thing is, he could just talk to them as Palpatine, but he probably went to them as Darth Sidious anyway, and it's like, oh, he did his evil voice, right, with his cloak on. So and then they went, okay, so we can't do trade with Naboo, as an example, anymore because it's going to be too expensive. So, and then he was like, okay, so what you should do is, like, try and threaten them a bit, right? So that they can see that you're pissed, and maybe that'll work, because, like, the Republic might capitulate to your demands. And then, and then he presumably told Natalie Portman, or he told somebody else to tell Natalie Portman that the taxation was reasonable, and that the Trade Federation were being dicks, and that's why we ended up with this conflict. And also, like, this is very poorly explained in the movie. I'm basically trying to piece this together from very fragmented and incomplete information that the movie presents, and this is the problem why the movie stinks. Anyway. If you like it, you like it. I guess people like the pod race and stuff, right? The pod race was boring to me, because I spent the whole time in the cinema when I first watched this, throughout the pod race, just wondering what the actual relationship between the Neimoidians, the Trade Federation, the Republic, and so on was, and Naboo, and so on was, because it's very poorly explained in the movie. So, you know, and yeah.
He was trained in the Jedi art. My only
So we don't. Okay, we're actually back at the political shit now. This is actually, like, the only bit that I care about in this part of the movie.
Honorable representatives of the Republic, I come to you under the gravest of circumstances.
Okay. Gravis. The thing is, like, why isn't she backing the trade? I don't understand, man. Makes no sense.
Naboo's system has been invaded by the droid armies of the trade.
I object.
Agreed.
There is no proof.
Okay. If the Trade Federation is an organization which is, you know, this is the bit that makes no sense either. Like, if the Trade Federation is an organization which handles trade, presumably they buy Naboobian goods, like Natalie Portman Dakimakrids, and then sells them to everybody else to use, and they make a profit from that, and basically, because the Trade Federation can't do that anymore because it's not worth it with all the tax, then that puts Naboo in a really bad spot as well, because it means that nobody else is handling the trade, and nobody else would do it either, probably, if the taxation was too much. And that's why the Naboo going against, like, the Trade Federation and on the side of the Republic makes no sense. It means that Palpatine or Darth Sidious or whatever has got to, like, she's compromised. Like, maybe Darth Sidious has got a Jedi Sith mind trick on her or something. It's the only thing that really makes any sense at this point. And there's a lot of that in this 3 movies where you go, like, oh, the only way this really makes sense is if Darth Sidious is, like, in control of everything. So, like, he's got everybody's minds under control, like with Yoda and Mace Windu not realizing that Palpatine is Darth Sidious, even though they really should be able to tell. That's, you know, they're just, like, their brains just don't work.
This is incredible. We recommend a commission be sent to Naboo to ascertain the truth.
The Congress of Malastare concurs.
But, like, why does the Trade Federation have seats in the Congress? Why? Like, effectively, it's like Amazon, right? So, if the Trade Federation is Amazon, why do they have seats? Or is it George Lucas, like... Well, I talked about that before.
With the honorable delegate from the Trade Federation, a commission must be appointed.
This is where Chancellor Valorum's strength will...
Everyone.
I do like that they did quite a good job of lighting them in these bits where they're outside and the lighting's nice. I kind of like how these.
If you would just follow the code, you would be on the council.
It's all fake though. I mean, look how fake everything looks.
They will not go along with you this time.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice.
Yeah, they're talking about Anakin.
Peter.
Nobody cares. Puppet Yoda, Puppet Yoda, Puppet Yoda, Puppet Yoda. They replaced Puppet Yoda with CGI Yoda, which admittedly looks better. But hurry up.
How feel you?
How feel you?
Cold, sir.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to
Skip it. Okay, so basically he's saying... Nah, I don't even care anymore. This movie
But in our
sucks.
situation will create a strong sympathy vote for us. I will be Chancellor.
I fear by the time you have control of the bureaucrats, Senator, there'll be nothing left of our people, our way of life.
Okay. I guess it's one of those things like making fun of your own country versus making fun of, like, something else, right? Like, if you make fun of somebody else's country, people will go, oh, that seems really bigoted of you, or whatever. But if you make fun of your own country, people are like, oh, yay! You know, but the way the Republic is portrayed in this movie is just bad. And I guess it's, like, accurate towards, like, it's clearly they're not really doing a takeoff of, like, Roman politics or anything. This is clearly American politics with the Congress and the Senate. They're not they're using those words because Americans recognize them as words that relate to their own politics. But so they talk about but you know, all the characters and George Lucas and everybody seems to think of all the political machinations of these political systems in like that are basically just a rip-off of the American systems as being useless and terrible and bad and not really representative and making bad decisions. And it's basically very you know, mocking of them, but it doesn't fit well into the rest of Star Wars because, you know, the Empire is portrayed later on and the Emperor, who is this guy, as being very bad. even though it's a replacement for a system which did not work, and came up with stupid ideas like having an impossible level of tax on that meant that trading like between planets was not feasible anymore. Like they literally, that's what this movie is about, right? So there's no way there's no way in heck that you'd come to this point going, oh, I think the Republic seems good actually, and actually the way, but like no, but the way they portray the Republic is useless, and the way that they portray the Jedi is that they're useless, right? And Yoda in this movie comes across as completely useless, and Mace Windu comes across in this movie as completely useless, as they do in the next two movies, and you know. So I like Palpatine. I think he did a really good job of ruling the galaxy when it was the Empire, and I think that strong-arming people by using Death Stars was correct because it kept the systems in line, and things were much better during that time period than before or after, and so yeah, he did a good job. You know, and yet the Republic was lame and stupid.
I understand your concern, Your Majesty. Unfortunately, the Federation has possession of our planet.
Yeah, don't care.
Chosen one. You must see it.
Don't care about you.
We have no army. Almost every...
Okay, I'll just pause here just in case. I don't want to get copyright strikes here, so I'm just flicking through it really quick. I think for a video CD version, this looks okay. It's not the best video CD I've seen. I have other video CDs from the East, and like I said before, the subtitles tend to ruin them, but this version without the subtitles looks nice. Like, it doesn't look too bad. It's not like... It's not... The thing is, on a standard definition cathode ray tube television with analog cables, not digital cables, plugging a video CD player into the television, you know, this would have looked fine, really. I mean, it would have probably looked better than a video would have, like a VHS would have. Although some video CDs look really bad, like commercially released ones look quite bad. But in general, like US and European release video CDs looked amazing, even though they stopped making them long before this, because this was the 2000s, but probably the last, if I had to guess, the last video CD released might have been in like 1995 or 1996 at the latest, probably. I should have looked it up before or something, but I think it looks and sounds pretty good, is what I'm saying. Okay, so ultimately they defeat Darth Maul. I don't know why there's this big music and like bombastic thing happening between the like with the fight with Darth Maul. They know nothing about Darth Maul at this point. Like, Darth Maul knows stuff about them because he knows the Jedi and the Jedi Order and, you know, the relationship between all different Jedis and all that sort of carry on. Like, basically what I'm saying is Darth Maul knows a lot about these guys, and Darth Maul knows that he's working for Darth Sidious and stuff, but, you know, these guys basically just don't know anything. All they know is that he's a Sith because he has, you know, he looks like one and has a red lightsaber. That's basically what it comes down to. So they're like, oh, there's this random Sith guy turned up, so we think he's evil, so we have to defeat him. So the music's all bombastic and shit, and and it's you know, but it's meaningless because like Qui-Gon doesn't know anything about Darth Maul in this scene at all. Like, nothing. He's just knows Darth Maul's here to protect, as far as he can tell, Trade Federation interests for some reason, which means that the Sith must be in line with the Trade Federation in some way, at least, or on the side, or or for whatever reason they're on their side. Maybe it's because they're good guys and they're nice guys and they understand that you can't just impose unrealistic taxes on people and expect things to work out. But for some reason, like Qui-Gon, he knows nothing about Darth Maul. They don't even talk about him, so they obviously can't read anything about him with their not really, not substantially. So they like their Jedi power ability to read any information about Darth Maul doesn't seem to actually be working in any capacity. So they're actually, you know, they don't know who he is. They just don't know. So who cares? Like, and why should the audience care when they watch this scene? The music is the only reason why anybody cares about this scene. And because, you know, the lightsaber fight looks kind of cool. And that's it. Like plot-wise, is pretty much irrelevant to the movie. He's just a random lackey. He's like Oddjob in Goldfinger, right? That's what this character is. He's not actually anything more than that. He's just a guy with a hat or a lightsaber that uses it as a weapon, and that's it. He's no characterization other than that. But people like the way he flips around and stuff on camera. It looks very nice. Hang on.
You should be congratulated, young Skywalker.
This is the last bit we're going to talk about, okay? This is right at the end of the movie. And Darth Maul's been killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi. And although people's, like, according to the extended universe or whatever, Darth Maul survived, even though Darth Maul has zero characterization in this movie, people like the makeup. So they were like, I know, we'll say that he survived so that he can be in later media. Which to me is embarrassing. Like, the fact that anybody would be a fan of Darth Maul who has zero character. Like, even a character like Mace Windu, who has no characterization, has more characterization than Darth Maul, even though it's only like 5%. The only character in this movie that really has, or feels like they have any characterization, is the Nemoidians, and maybe Watto, and maybe Qui-Gon Jinn to a lesser degree, and Palpatine. And that's it. Like, the rest of them don't.
We are indebted to you for your bravery, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you.
Yeah, this bit's like a joke moment, because it's the Emperor talking to Darth Vader saying, oh, yeah, you're gonna be Darth Vader one day, mate.
Young Skywalker.
Young Skywalker, mate.
We will watch your career with great interest.
We'll watch your career with great interest. That's my impression of Palpatine. He's good, though. I like Palpatine a lot. He makes these movies good, but he's not in them enough. Like, he's in episode 3
on your election,
quite a lot, but he's not in this movie enough.
Your boldness has saved our people, Your Majesty. It's you who should be congratulated.
Yeah, so that's dumb. This is all dumb. None of it makes any sense. See, like, they had a good thing going, selling all those Dakimakuras, right, to the Trade Federation, and then the Trade Federation could sell them to everybody else. I don't know why they would, like, go to all of this trouble just to make that impossible. Like, how is Naboo going to have a sustainable economy now?
Together, we shall bring peace and prosperity to the Republic.
Anyway, actually, that bit was good. I like that because he was lying, obviously, because he's trying to take over the Republic. And if you're watching this movie like I was, I know I'm sitting there going, "Oh, that's funny because you become the Emperor." Right? So obviously you're lying, right? And like everybody should know you're a Sith. Like not everybody, but the Jedi should be able to tell that you're a Sith, right? Surely they spend so much time with you, but they can't even like get an inkling that you might be a Sith. It's embarrassing. It just means Yoda's useless as a Jedi.
Jedi Knight. The Council does.
Okay, it's in this movie. Okay, all right. This is the final stupidity, right? Because at the start of the movie, in the title crawl, it said that this is why you know this is not well written, right? Because no matter what because like I think most people just ignore all the trade dispute stuff because they don't understand it, right? Which is fine, but it just means like the fact that it's so hard to understand because it's so poorly written means that like it's just irritating. And also Obi-Wan Kenobi at the start of the movie, by the prologue scrolly text bit, he was referred to as a is prologue at the start, or is the title the text that goes into the distance into space? That's what I'm talking about, right? That said, Obi-Wan Kenobi was a Jedi Knight. It said 2 Jedi Knights were sent by the Republic to solve the trade dispute, right? So that means at that point, at the start of the movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn are both Jedi Knights. Okay, so just remember that, okay?
Confer on you the level of Jedi Knight. The Council does.
Okay, except he just got promoted to Jedi Knight at this part of the movie, which means that he was not a Jedi Knight when the text said he was, or when he was referred to as a Jedi Knight earlier in the movie, which I'm sure he was, because I'm sure the Nemoidians Trade Federation, whatever, referred to them as Jedi Knights, but they could have been mistaken. So, or maybe it's just saying that the position of Jedi Knight is more of just something like it's how other people see you. It's like you can't self-identify as a Jedi Knight. It's just how other people see you. So if generally speaking people think, oh, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Jedi Knight, isn't he? And then that means that he is a Jedi Knight. So this bit at the end is just saying that Yoda doesn't see Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Jedi Knight, so he is affirming Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Knight-ness. So now, at this point, Obi-Wan Kenobi is, only according to Yoda, a Jedi Knight. But everybody else can still make it up, use their own brain to decide whether Obi-Wan Kenobi is an actual Jedi Knight or not.
But agree with your taking this boy as your Padawan learner. I do not.
Qui-Gon believed in him.
Okay. The thing is, okay, I haven't talked about Qui-Gon much in this thing, because I don't care about the Qui-Gon thing that much, but it is at least interesting that Qui-Gon, like, when he talks to the Council earlier, he comes across like he feels the Force and he understands what the Force wants him to do, and he's like, the Force is telling me that I personally have to raise the boy, not anybody else. Like, that's basically what he's getting at, right? Well, after he talks to the Council, that's basically what he's getting at, right? So, that's interesting because it's not how the other characters talk, not how the other Jedi talk. They'll talk like ineffectual bureaucrats, and Obi-Wan Kenobi talks like he doesn't really believe in the Force at all, even though he uses Force powers all the time. But that's embarrassing as well. So, like, Yoda just comes across as silly here because he's going, I think that us as the Jedi Council, if we train the boy, do it using our methods, I don't know that I would expect good outcomes based on what I'm feeling from the Force. That's basically what he's getting at. And then Obi-Wan is like tricking him by saying, but Qui-Gon said that he wanted to do it, so now Yoda is second thinking it, but that's not what the Force is saying. The Force is telling people different things, because Obi-Wan Kenobi presumably wouldn't do a very good job, and Yoda presumably wouldn't do a very good job, and Qui-Gon presumably would have done a good job. Maybe. That's my guess. Because Obi-Wan Kenobi is in tune with the Force, and Yoda is not. And this scene where Yoda basically just changed his mind for no reason is basically just, even though he should be able to feel from the Force what he should be doing, it just means that he's a terrible Jedi. And basically, this scene is, I believe, George Lucas wrote this scene to prove to the audience from now into the future that Yoda is not actually a very good Jedi anymore, because he's been on the Jedi Council for too long and he's letting it cloud his judgment. And he also can't tell when a Sith is in his presence or anything. He's basically just useless, right? He's become useless at his job. He's not a master of anything. He's just terrible. And, yeah. I'm sure it's intentional that George...
The chosen one the boy may be. Nevertheless, grave danger I fear in his training.
Well, yeah, that's just because the official, in quotes, official Jedi training would screw him up like it did. Yeah.
Master Yoda, I gave Qui-Gon my word.
No. Qui-Gon asked you because he trusted you, Obi-Wan. Anyway.
I will train Anakin.
I think what the movie's trying to say...
Without the approval of the Council, if I must.
Yeah, I think what the prequels are trying to say is the official bodies can't be trusted here. Because, like, it's almost like the Jedi Council is like a grave in a cemetery of organizations where it represents the death of true Jedi wisdom and Jedi thinking. And Qui-Gon Jinn is almost like the last bastion of hope for the Jedi, but he gets killed. So I think that's the intent of all of these scenes where they're being portrayed in this way, which is kind of interesting. The pod race that lasts like half an hour is not interesting. Like, it's actually really boring to watch. As is the lightsaber duel, which goes on for far too long. That is boring as fuck.
Qui-Gon's defiance I sense in you. A bet you do not.
Okay, I'm just going to cut him off. So he agrees to train. He agrees that they'll train him. So he's like, it's not clear who's training him at this point. Like, I'm sure, because like basically I think they're just saying like, okay, he's going to go through whatever the official Jedi training procedure is, even though he's a little bit too old. And also they know that he's the chosen one who's going to bring balance to the Force, but he's also like, they kind of know that he has the potential to be extremely evil at this point. And I think Yoda is saying that, and the fact that he doesn't really follow up on it, because he basically, I can understand how that happens too, but like in Attack of the Clones, and in Rise of the, what's it called? Revenge, oh god, episode 3, I can't remember what episode 3 is called. In episode 2 and episode 3, the Jedi Council, like, they seem apprehensive about Anakin Skywalker, but they don't actually come across like they're really following up on him properly to make sure that he's not evil. That's what I would say. Like, if Yoda's genuine here, he should be following up, like, really, like, monitoring him and going, like, can we really trust you at any point, Anakin? Because we all feel that you're going to be evil. But he doesn't really do that. He basically just, like, gives up. He kind of puts all the burden onto Obi-Wan, is the problem. And Obi-Wan doesn't really do a great job of mentoring him, in my opinion. He basically just acts like a dick towards him. And, like, I understand why somebody with the personality of Anakin in Attack of the Clones or in Revenge of the Sith would, which is the actual name of episode 3, I can understand how that could happen, right? How he would turn against Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan acts like an ass to him, and it makes him really resentful. And Obi-Wan is also very snarky with him, which he thinks is funny. But, like, Anakin does not take it as a joke ever, really. He basically always takes it badly. So, is there anything else in this stupid-ass movie?
And an apprentice.
But which was destroyed? The master or the apprentice?
Okay, so, see? It's Senator Palpatine. Senator Palpatine, Darth Sidious, the Emperor, the Alpha and the Omega. Mega Idol, Oshi, Kamiyoshi. You know, he's the top one. But, you know, they said that see, the movie just called him a Sith then, because they assumed it. They basically said, oh, is there another Sith? I wonder. There must be, because there's always two. So if we've got Darth Maul, there must be another Sith. And the camera zooms in on Palpatine's face. And even though the camera is zooming in on Palpatine's face, none of the Jedi notice that that's happening, that the camera is zooming in on his face. Even there's a guy there with a camera zooming in directly on his face. And, you know, doesn't notice. Just doesn't know. See? I'm Palpatine. Anyway. No, I'm Palpatine. I meant I'm the Emperor. They don't know who the Emperor is yet because there's no Empire. I'm Darth Sidious. I'm evil. Anyway. Except they're not... Oh, gosh. Anyway. There's nothing to talk about in this movie now. I think this movie... Overall, if you compare this movie with the other Star Wars movies, it's not that bad. It probably feels the most Star Wars-y of all of the movies. People really care about that sort of feel thing going on. And, like, you could make the argument that Episode 7 has a sort of slightly 70s Star Wars feel to it, but even though it has much more modern graphics in it. And this kind of is similar in that you can go, well, it looks quite a lot like a Star Wars movie, I guess, even though it has nice CGI. The big problem is that Episode 2 and Episode 3, shot on digital with way too many digital effects, look really terrible. Like, they're really ugly looking movies, even on release. And the fact that they didn't shoot them on real sets meant that they didn't really get the blocking right or interesting or anything. And there's a lot of repetitive dialogue on scenes that aren't blocked very well, and it's all very tiresome and boring. And basically, it comes across like whoever was directing it, I won't even say who they are. We don't need to talk about who was directing those movies, but you know, they did a very lazy job of shooting those scenes, and it was very boring to watch. And but this movie looks vibrant and full of life to a degree. It has has the pod racing bit, which is boring, but other people like the pod racing bit. It has the lightsaber duel at the end, which is really well done, and much better done than the lightsaber duel at the end of the trilogy, which is very, we just shot this on a green screen, and it just feels dull. Like, it doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like they've inserted them into a video game and it looks fake. And it's just like, is this even a movie anymore? We're just watching a video game that looks barely above video game level graphics, and like a plot that doesn't really make sense, and characters that are not well developed, and I don't know why is anybody giving a shit about any of this? But at least the score is good. Like, John Williams in this, excellent work. The only reason this movie is tolerable, really, to an average audience is because John Williams did an excellent job scoring it, and that's basically the same with Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, is that they've got amazing scores, and Episode 7, 8, and 9 also have amazing scores, even though they're terrible movies. And, yeah. So, he is the real star of Star Wars. The actual real star, because, you know, even though there's a lot of repetition, because of the leitmotif thing, where he's, like, repeating themes over and over again, but they do, like, if anything, there's more character in the music than there is in the script. And, yeah. But that's not a good sign. Anyway. So, this movie's okay. I don't know why I bought it on video CD. I just bought it on video CD specifically for this video, because I really wanted to make this video. And it's getting way too long now, because it's over an hour, and I'm going to upload it, and YouTube's probably going to reject it on copyright grounds because I showed too much of the movie, which means that I'm going to have to edit it, but I'm going to try not editing it at first. And I do have a Discord, which is in the description, even though it's like a ghost town, and I do have a debut stream probably happening in like a couple of days or something, which is on my channel on YouTube as well. Ta-da! Ciao!